Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles! Resolve. In the last episode, we had a lot of unraveling going on, as always in Ace Attorney. And, well, we arrived at having a closer look at Karuma. And at the hill at the top of Karuma, about here, we found that Clint Van Ziek's will is actually in there. But unfortunately, we can't check that out, but we are about to present this little thingy here. And without further ado, let's just do that.
Take that!
There is a single piece of evidence that can clarify what really happened 10 years ago. The last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zieks. Ha! A wonderfully astute observation, I'm sure. But in case it had escaped your notice, that document was lost long ago. That's right, it was. Only... I have it right here, discovered just moments ago. Impossible! That can't be! Everything that's happened comes back to this will. This document is the key that will unlock the entire mystery.
My brother's last will and testament. Where did you find that?
It was rolled up inside this.
Inside Karuma.
That ultimate weapon Genshin Asuke obtained has lain undisturbed in the hilt of this sword all these years. Just waiting for the right time to emerge and reveal the truth.
The signature and seal certainly look official. My God, it's true. It's my brother's handwriting. There can be no mistake.
I forbid the contents of that document from being read out. Do you hear me? I strictly forbid it.
Objection!
You can't do that, my lord. This document could explain everything. That document could literally destroy the meaning of justice in this country. I demand that you hand it to me at once. Why? What are you trying to hide? Could it be that you already know what's written on this page? Yeah, what are you implying? Court is adjourned with immediate effect. Clear the courtroom.
Objection!
Do that, my lord, and you'll suffer fatal blow as Lord Chief Justice.
I beg your pardon? Forcibly ending a trial without good reason? And not any trial, a closed trial by order of Her Majesty the Queen. To defy the monarch's will is treason. Lord Clint Van Zieks really did pen a will. It's exactly as the young Japanese man said.
Read it out! No! We have a right to hear what's in that will! A right and a duty!
Well, my lord. It would rather appear as though proceedings aren't going to go quite as you'd hoped.
You fools! Go ahead, Ryunosuke, read it! The prosecution gives its full support! Very well then. No, for God's sake. No! I pen this, my last will and testament, in the final moments before my inevitable and willing death. The hour is 11 p.m. and I sit at my writing desk in my office. My good friend Asuke stands at my shoulder. He has expressed his intent to invoke the dying ritual of the duel, that I might depart this world with honor. An honor of which I am utterly undeserving. The Japanese are a truly merciful people. I, Clint Van Zieks, Lord of the Manor of the Van Zieks estate, hereby confess to the following. I am the killer who has come to be known in society as the Professor, guilty of 4 counts of murder. I will not here discourse the corruption rife among those aristocracy, which is to me is one of them, so apparent. However, 6 months ago, I took the life of a member of the House of Lords at the heart of the depravity. A demon who habitually sacrificed the common man to further his own interests, abusing his position of power. The law is impotent against such wild avarice. Only a fellow demon can rid society of this menace. That demon was my quarry, upon whom I willingly set my great hound. But though I am a hunter of some experience, I am a poor felon, it seems. My guilt was at once recognized by another, and I became subject to his extortion. He held over me the threat of exposing my wicked crime to my beloved wife and brother. Under that threat, I have done this man's bidding for months now, killing those he demanded I kill. As I watched my former mentor perish before my eyes at the jaws of the hound I commanded, I realized that I had lost the last shred of decency within me and sunk to the level of a wild beast. There is no path back to the light, be it I or my dear friend Asago who dies this night. I am eternally damned. To my extortioner, my Strongheart, may you feel the jaws of the beast at your throat every time you swallow. So now we know, yes, Clint Van Zieks was a murderer. But somebody was directing him and naming his victims. His extortioner, Lord Miles Strongheart. It was you!
Lord Strongheart, a moment ago, you claimed that what the court has just heard could destroy justice in this country. But you weren't trying to protect justice at all. All you were trying to do was conceal the secret of your true nature and the countless lives you sacrificed up till now. It just didn't make sense to me that the third victim, the former Lord Chief Justice, was my brother's benefactor and a man of lofty principles. As I said, Clint had no possible reason to kill the man.
But you did, didn't you, Lord Strongheart? To eliminate the man who stood between you and the office you'd set your sights on. So you used your own hunting dog, Lord Clint Van Zieks, to take him down. It had to be done. London's unsavory shadows are deep, and the arm of the law fails to reach their depths. Crime must be cut off at the roots, but the Lord Chief Justice at the time couldn't see that. He was weak. Lofty principles, you say. Tantamount to cowardice, if you ask me. Which is why I took his place, in order to fight the crime he was allowing to spread like wildfire.
By murdering the man?
The Reaper, the Professor, the name makes no difference. As I've explained countless times already, it was all done for the furtherance of law and order in London.
Objection!
Are you going to legitimize the murder of my father now too? Ah, Genshin Asugi. Well, that was unfortunate. I had fully intended to send him back to Japan as we'd agreed. I don't believe you! It was you, wasn't it? You killed him! No, it wasn't me who took your father's life. Then who? On the night following his mock execution, I went to Logan Cemetery at 3 in the morning with Jigoku.
Jigoku?
There had to be a collaborator on the Japanese side to manage Asugi's treatment after his repatriation. Jigoku had fierce ambition. It made him easy to manipulate. 10 years ago, after he'd stood trial for the destruction of the witness stand, I had words with him. When I told him the position of Minister of Foreign Affairs could be his,
He couldn't degrade fast enough.
Seishiro, you fool.
As you know, Asogi escaped the prison in a closed casket and was subsequently interred. We intended to dig him out of his grave before he ran out of air. But sadly, all did not go to plan. There was an unexpected visitor to the cemetery with his own ideas about digging up graves. A man who witnessed what nobody was supposed to see.
Enoch Drebber.
Of course I knew grave robbers frequented London's cemeteries. But that grave on the particular night... Blast! If people found out the convict wasn't really executed, the scandal will rock the very foundations of the empire.
Then what do we do?
Shoot him, Mr. Jigoku! Shoot Asogi at once!
He can't live now.
Now this has happened. He has to go.
What are you talking about? You had an agreement. You promised him he could return to Japan.
Everything has changed now. If the truth got out because of this, both of us would be finished forever. Come on, Jigoku, do it! Pull the trigger! Shoot! Jigoku shot Asogi from the shadows. The grave robber was so close the blood sprayed over his coat. He fled as fast as his legs would carry him. Then Jigoku and I put Asogi's body back in the grave from which he just emerged. When I later learned of the waxwork model's presence at the scene as well, I made her swear to two things. Never to remove the professor's mask, and never to speak of the events of that night. And with that, the secret was buried along with Asogi's corpse. So, now you know what really happened in Logan Cemetery that night. It was Jigoku, your Japanese acquaintance, who killed Asogi in the end, you see. He claimed to be the man's friend, but when push came to shove, he pulled the trigger.
Just before Mr. Jigoku left the courtroom earlier, he said that the assassin exchange proposal was a demand from his British counterpart, not a request. So you coerced him too, using what happened in the graveyard.
By that time, Jigoku was the Minister of Foreign Affairs negotiating international treaties with Britain. You can imagine what would have happened if it came to light he'd murdered a compatriot 10 years earlier. He would have lost everything. I merely reminded him of that.
How do you sleep at night?
These past 10 years, I've fought tirelessly with the darker recesses of London's criminal underworld. And I've used whatever means necessary to ensure that justice prevails and law and order reigns supreme.
Objection!
That couldn't be further from the truth. The fact is, you haven't fought crime at all.
How dare you! I saved Clint Van Zeeks from dishonor in his death.
Objection!
Whilst behind the scenes, you systematically burned anyone who stood in your way. And then, you made my father take the blame.
It was unavoidable. It was the only way to protect our justice system and public order.
Let's not forget the others you have killed as well. Setting the defendant up as the Reaper to cover up the truth behind the murders of countless more.
That's enough! Do you have any idea of the conniving that led to the acquittals of those wretched criminals? We have to fight fire with fire. Our courts can't function without a Reaper. Can't you see all I've done for this country? That has been my struggle!
Objection!
You've done nothing. It's Lord Van Ziegsee who worked tirelessly and justly in court, whilst enduring the disgrace of the Reaper name. And Inspector Gregson, fraught with anguish for having sullied his hands through a desire to do the right thing. Not to mention Genshin Asogi, who risked his life going in pursuit of the truth you tried to hide. No, the darker recesses of London's underworld were largely filled by you.
You little. When will you get it through your thick skulls?
That it was all for Queen and country? I'm tiring of that excuse. You've consistently twisted the truth for bargaining power to make others do your bidding. Nothing more. People who willingly twist the truth and coerce others have no right to call themselves part of the judiciary. I strongly suggest you don't ever talk of justice again.
Well, well, well. Dear me, my good fellows, dear me. A well-deserved round of applause, I think, for a quite marvelous performance.
What are you talking about?
Those delightfully grave expressions, that beautifully pronounced Queen's English. Really, our friends from the Far East are quite the picture of industriousness.
You fraud! Keep your mockery!
Please, don't misunderstand. It really is exactly as you've both said.
What are you trying to say?
I have occupied the darker recesses of London's underworld and, how did you put it, done nothing? I confess it's a little embarrassing to have it pointed out quite so starkly, but yes, I really have done nothing, which means I can be indicted for nothing. No?
What?
It's true. Personally, I have committed no crime. I've merely been surrounded by fools who've acted very rashly indeed.
Objection!
You can't get away with that. You've consistently preyed on people's weaknesses.
And what? Threatened them? Are you sure it wasn't just bargaining? I would like to address all the good lords, ladies and gentlemen of the judiciary here present. You all know of these darker recesses in our great capital, and deep down, I believe you also know that to fight those who dwell there requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. So let me appeal to your good sense now. Consider the situation with me. If this catalogue of horrifying revelations were to become common knowledge among the 6 million inhabitants of London, what might happen? To learn that the infamous murderer of royals and nobles was a respected member of the aristocracy himself, that evidence was fabricated in the scapegoat's trial amid secret negotiations with prosecutors to effect a jailbreak, that the Reaper of the Bailey was an organized group of assassins managed by a Scotland Yard inspector, and finally, that it was all masterminded by the Lord Chief Justice himself.
If the general public of Britain knew the truth, all faith in the police and the prosecutor's office would be completely lost, without doubt.
Public order in the capital would completely break down. We'd be cast back to the lawless days of the last century.
Precisely as it was 100 years ago, when 1 in 10 of the population were criminals. Think what we've accomplished since then. Public policing force, a comprehensive set of laws. And if we want to continue to protect this new era of law and order, I say again, we must at times occupy the darkness ourselves. We have successfully identified and apprehended the man responsible for taking Inspector Gregson's life. That is all that was expected of this trial. All these other matters have been discussed. Will be eliminated from the minutes of these proceedings in the interests of preserving law and order.
And to Sorry, guys?
And to protect Her Majesty the Queen, of course. Well, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, what say you?
He has a point. The things Lord Strongheart has done are quite unforgivable.
But on the other hand, isn't that our duty to maintain law and order in the country?
You can't deny that the threat of the Reaper over the years has done wonders for the crime rate.
And by fair means or foul, that's all thanks to Lord Strongheart.
No way, guys. Did he really sway the people in the gallery with that bullshit? Okay, are you hearing this? This is the will of the British judiciary?
For your rousing response, friends, I express my heartfelt gratitude. Therefore, in accordance with the overwhelming wishes of the court, the records shall be erased.
You have to respect the man's ability to turn a situation to his favor. Lord Strongheart really is a master of manipulation. You have conclusively proven his guilt, yet still he manages to evade justice. I just don't know what we can do. Ryunosuke! It looks like the trial really is going to come to an end now. I'm almost out of options, I think. There's really only one path left open to me. I don't think that raising an objection does anything. We could wait and see. But that... I don't think that does anything. Wait a second. Wait a second. We still have this, Iris's lucky charm. I've been told to tug its ears if I find myself at a dead end. This is a dead end, right? I mean, we also do have a lot of tries, so let's just use evidence. Yes, as I know only too well, the only thing that carries any weight in court is hard evidence. But Mr. Naruhodo, what evidence is there to use at this stage in the trial? I have an idea. I don't know whether anything will come of it, but if there was ever time for using this particular item we have among the evidence, it's now. And I just said what I was thinking, so
Take that!
we're gonna use Iris's lucky. Oh my! Yes! Mr. Sholmes asked if you had that with you earlier. We've exposed all of Lord Strongheart's wrongdoing now. I've no doubt that Mr. Sholmes had already deduced exactly how the truth would unfurl. So I think it must be time for the great detective to take center stage, don't you? Yes, absolutely. Let's take the hair by the ears then, and heave. All right, here goes. Heave.
Ow, 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 ow! My dear fellows, I must remind you every time, a gentle tuck will suffice.
Mr. Sholmes!
You're looking in quite the wrong direction, Mr. Naruhodo. Because I'm over here.
Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, he's... It's Mr. Sholmes!
I wasn't expecting you back, Sholmes.
Delighted to be here again, Lord Strongheart. What? What is the meaning of this? Bailiffs, seize him! Put that man in irons! This is a closed court! You've been warned once already, man!
What the? We can't get a hold of him, my lord! We just gotta run through him!
I'm afraid your efforts are wasted. You see, the great detective you see before you is composed entirely of light and shadow, an image, if you will. Mr. Naruhodo, I must congratulate you on your fine deductions.
Mr. Sholmes, what on earth is...
Are you familiar, I wonder, with the invention known as the telephone?
Well, yes, I hear that some public telephones have been installed recently in Tokyo. The sound of the speaker's voice is converted to an electrical signal and transmitted instantly to another place.
Quite. Sounds are transmitted, so could not images keep them company, I'm mused? Iris and I did some modest experimentation to develop such a device specifically for this very day.
Modest experimentation, Mr. Sholmes? What a modest description!
And somewhat incidentally, I thought we might just as well transmit an entire scene.
Somewhat incidentally, Mr. Sholmes? No, you're just being immodest.
Do you mean to say you're not actually here, Sholmes?
I knew my trusty partner would have no trouble grasping the concept.
Except he's grasping the stand to steady himself after your shock arrival. Poor father, I would have hoped you might have been forewarned, being the great detective's great partner.
Leave my courtroom at once. Get out, or I swear to you. Dear me, you on the other hand, Lord Strongheart, appear to have a very poor grasp of the situation. Allow me to reiterate, I am not here, which would, I hope, lead naturally to one asking,
Where exactly are you?
the very question I was awaiting. I'm at present enjoying the air in a rather splendid garden.
A garden?
Not just any garden, you understand. A garden at Buckingham Palace.
What?
You can't be Buckingham Palace?
What's Buckingham Palace, Mr. Sato? I've never heard of it. Do you ever read the news, Mr. Naruhodo? Mr. Sholmes? Is Iris with you there?
Oh, well now, Iris is currently enjoying some tea. With Her Majesty.
Her Majesty?
Not just any Her Majesty, you understand. Her Majesty the Queen of British Empire.
What?
What?
What on earth is all this about? Buckingham Palace is Her Majesty the Queen's residence in London, Mr. Naruhodo.
Order! Order in court! I demand immediate silence.
Her Majesty the Queen, you can't be. I mean, no! This is some sort of unforgivable, distasteful trickery by a third-rate detective, that's all! Sorry, guys.
Unforgivable, distasteful trickery? What an apt description. A closed court session attended by elite members of the judiciary is a rare event. I presumed that Her Majesty would be more than a little curious about the proceedings. So I decided to show her everything, from start to finish.
Huh? You showed her?
Indeed. By dint of Sherlock Holmes' remote cinematograph.
You meddling...
This is some kind of nightmare.
Just as I appear to be standing before you, regaling you with talk of my latest invention. No doubt you've inferred that the reverse is also true.
You don't mean...
Majesty has seen and heard every moment of the proceedings. I assumed there would be no objection. After all, every trial in this country is conducted under the auspices of Her Majesty, as you know.
You...
I confess I'm quite impatient to hear Her Majesty's opinion. About unforgivably distasteful trickery in which you've been engaged over the past 10 years.
No, I was merely... Oh, so sorry to keep you all waiting. Ricky and I had so much to talk about. Iris, there you are. In fact, I have a little message here from Her Majesty.
A message? Well then, if everyone is sitting comfortably, forthwith and with immediate effect, all authority previously afforded to my Strongheart is hereby revoked forevermore. Furthermore, he will be prosecuted for crimes against his country in a public trial by jury in the coming days.
So, it seems that Her Majesty doesn't believe we need to fight fire with fire. justice in this country needn't be administrated from the shadows at all. My strong heart, the darkness you fostered you to conceal your despicable actions these last 10 years is a thing of the past now. After today, your brand of law and order has no future, because no longer are you the Lord Chief Justice. In the eyes of the law and of Her Majesty the Queen, you are nothing but a criminal.
Adjourned! 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 God is adjourned!
Alright guys, I know this is a little bit harsh, but I promise that the next episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Resolve, will go up as quickly as possible, which means immediately after this episode. So if you want to know how the Resolve is going to unfold, you'll have to tune in next time. See you then.